part 4 of 8 in terms of the game. Click that like and subscribe. It'll help me a lot. But here we are. What we're going to do is we're going to talk about the Quest for Glory 2 Trial by Fire. And I'm just basically going to use the introduction because I left it in all of these to basically talk about what I've done. So my original Quest for Glory playthrough, if you've not listened to the previous 3, and I don't know why you'd listen to the 4th one if you've not listened to the other 3, but my original Quest for Glory 2 playthrough is 11 hours and 22 minutes. So what I've done is I've basically separated it into 8 sections, and each section is basically like a couple of days in terms of game time that pass by, and each section after the first basically starts with the hero awakening after the trial, or after after the intro. I don't know what trial, except for the Trial of Fire. So after the intro, the game will actually start. So you'll see me import the character, and then suddenly the hero is going to wake up, and he's going to have a bunch of points, because by this 4th segment, I think we're on day 8 or 9, I believe. So when the game starts, it's going to say you feel very refreshed, and that's how it's going to start. He's basically going to start from whatever day we're on and have X amount of points. So if you're watching this thinking this is the first one, and you're like, why does the hero already have like 190 points or whatever it is? It's because this is the 4th one. You want to watch the other 3 before this one if you want to see everything. And something that I did with the other 3 is throughout the commentary, I also dropped like some Quest for Glory knowledge, like in terms of how Quest for Glory 2 was the last EGA game made by Sierra. So while they were making Quest for Glory 2 and they're knee deep in the game, at that point Sierra was moving towards VGA. And so there was a little bit of complication because everyone wanted to move to the new shiny of VGA, but they were already knee deep in making Quest for Glory 2 in EGA. So it was already pretty much too late to turn around now. So they struggled to basically get everything that they wanted to do because everyone was already staring at the VGA side of things. So if you want to check out some cool knowledge like that about the cost of Quest for Glory 2 and stuff like that, definitely listen to the first 3 commentaries. This one, I don't think I really have a lot more knowledge that I can think of to share. So a lot of it is probably actually going to be commenting on the actual gameplay. So that'll be a little bit different. So you're going to see here he wakens and he has 166 points out of 500. So again, if you want to see everything from the start, definitely watch the commentary 1, 2, and 3 before you watch this one. Or if you just want to skip to the middle of the book, welcome to the 4th commentary. One thing that's funny is the NPCs that you'll see here. Sometimes when they walk and they walk in the same direction like they've done there at the door, neither one of them will move. So you've literally got to go to a different door, different screen to get them to move out of the way. So that is something to keep in mind. And I mentioned this in the other playthrough. If you can, what you're going to want to do is basically save all your stingers and all your ghoul claws and sell them at one time. Do not sell them individually, and don't sell them by 1s or 2s, because the RX guy will reach a limit in terms of how many he's willing to buy. So if you have 20 on you of each, he buys all 20 and gives you a huge amount of money for it. But if you were to buy, sell them individually, he might only buy up to 10. I don't know because I did not think there was a cap as to how many he would buy. I did not keep track of actually how many stingers and claws he'll buy in terms of individually. Because I'm pretty sure if you drop 20 on his lap, he's not just going to say, hey, I only need 10 of these. The other 10 are all yours. I think he'll just pay for the large sum. And I will say, by the time we've reached this point of the game, I'm pretty confident in my hero here. I'm willing to look for fights, and I'm not going to run. I can kill things very, very quickly, and that's without it being sped up. So if you happen to be one of those people that just likes to jump right in the middle of things. And this is the first one you're watching. During combat, you'll see like a hand with remote appear in the lower left. That is a edit I did, and that was to speed up combat, because in my original 11 hours and 22 minutes, when the combat was not sped up, it was over 13 hours. And I think my compiler, the editor I have, if anything is longer than an hour or 11 hours and 30 minutes, I think that's kind of the cap before it just crashes out. Because there was, I think it was Gabriel Knight 2 or 3 was over 11 hours and 30 minutes, and my renderer could not do it. It would get to like 98% and then it would crash. And then just to make sure not to risk that, I said, you know what, this Quest for Glory is 13 hours. There's no way it's going to ever render. I'd have to splice it in two, which I could have done also. But I thought, well, if I speed up the combat, because there is so much combat, I wonder how much time that's going to save me. And I sped up all the combat that was in it, including the training. And so there's that hand like that. And that actually knocked it down to under 11 hours and 30 minutes. Not that anyone has 11 hours and 30 minutes to sit there and watch a video, but if you're going to sleep and you just want to listen to some Quest for Glory 2 action happening in the background, I've got just a video for you. But anyway, so what I had done is basically I took those and I broke them up into where the hero is doing things for a couple of days, and every time he rests, that's where I cut it off. So it's not every time he rests, but like every couple of days when he rests, so that the next segment starts with him basically awakening. And you can already see where I'm doing the thing that I mentioned in the other one, where I learned that it's actually kind of stupid to wander deep into the desert because it's hard to map. And I love that I found the source, but I don't even manage to get off the screen before the source freaks out again and knocks me off. So I find him on one screen and don't even get to ride him. He just knocks me off right again because the monster came. But you can see I'm already doing that thing where I said when you come in Shapir, just hook left, because you'll know when you get near the Griffin, not to be confused with a Vulture, you know that you're close to Shapir, and if there is something chasing you, you can just need to get to the Griffin and it'll stop chasing you. So if you had a monster chasing you, once you get to the Griffin, it'll actually stop. It will not chase you onto the Griffin screen. So by going to the left when you come out of Shapir, basically, it's the safest thing to do and not go actually into the desert. Just come out of Shapir, hang a left, past the Griffin, not a Vulture. And if you're wondering why I keep emphasizing that it's not a Vulture, if you watch the other commentary, you'll know why. But that's the safest route thing to do, is not wander into the desert if you're just looking to kill things and earn coin. Come out of Shapir, hook left, past the Vulture, and just kind of stay just a few screens to the left of the Vulture. Because if you do get in trouble, you just need to hook it to the right, and once you get to the Vulture, you know you're pretty good off. You can save at the Vulture, and then you just need to make it 3 more screens to the right, and then you're in front of Shapir and you're good to go. So now we're just going to wander around, and you'll notice that the kata will thank you pretty much every time you do anything to defeat the elementals. So when you defeat the fire elementals, they're super thankful. When you defeat the upcoming air elemental, because I think he's in this segment, because I think it's fire, air, water, stone, I believe. I'm pretty sure air is next. But when you defeat them, they're pretty much always super thankful. And I think that's kind of cool that they actually react to things that you're doing. So it's not that you're just defeating stuff. You're actually feeling like you're doing something. And something that I mentioned in the previous ones that I'll mention again in case you're that guy who likes to jump in the middle. During combat, I just straight up attack. I don't do any parries. I don't do any defense or anything like that. What I do is every time I train with Hura, you'll see that basically I'm doing parrying and dodge. And that's when I'm upping those skills, is when I'm with them. Now, what I'm doing now is I have, I think, 1 food ration. And I'm trying to buy food, and every time I'm trying to look at food and trying to get food from them because they sell food, I would say, buy lamb, and it says, oh, you buy the lamb and it's delicious. And then, buy dates. Oh, you eat the dates, they're delicious. And it just keeps happening. And I was like, well, I need food to basically travel around to basically be able to survive. For anyone who is in that same boat, what you want to do is you want to buy rations from them. If you buy rations, that will allow you to keep it, to store, and use it to travel so that you do not die of starvation while you're out in the desert or just walking around. So go to them and buy rations. Don't buy the food that they're selling. Just say, hey, I need rations. Stop selling me the lamb. I'm sure it's delicious. And with the beggar that we see here, what you want to do if you want to raise your honor is you want to give him, and I believe it's pronounced dinar or dinar, the coin, the higher end coin. Because if you give him the lower end coin, the centine, I don't I don't know if you can raise your honor if you give him the lower end coin, or how many it takes to basically raise your honor if you're giving him the lower end coin. But if you give him the dinar, sorry, I don't know how it's pronounced, it will actually raise up your honor. And so here we are, and here is Omar, and he's doing his thing where he tells these poetry poems and stuff like that. And what's going to happen is while he's here, after you finish his poem, when you leave and come back, you'll discover that he's dropped something. And to me, it looked like a water skin, which would make sense considering the environment that you're in. It's a desert. He would surely be carrying a water skin with him. Why wouldn't he? So when you come back, you can see it on the ground. Kind of looks like a water skin, but it's actually not. If you look, it could also be a purse. And that's what it actually is. So when you pick it up, it'll note that, hey, there's some money in here and there's a couple of books and stuff like that. If you're going for being a paladin, you will have to return that money bag to him. So knowing that I found his coin, I'm like, well, okay, well, now where do I find Omar? So basically I sit down, get some food, eat and drink, and then, I'm like, where's Omar? And he's like, hey, you know what? Sorry, I wish I could tell you. And then how do you not know where Omar is? Like, he's been in here to do poetry readings. Like, you can't tell me where he lives. So basically, Omar will reappear there on one of the days. The kata will tell you and say, hey, don't forget, Omar will be here. And then that's when you'll actually return the coin to him. Now, I will say one of the things about this beggar is I wish you could do more than a single coin. So, for example, if the centine, I don't know how it's pronounced, if that coin can eventually, if you give him enough, it can give you honor. I wish that you could say something like, hey, I give him 10 centine, or you know what, I have 389 centine on me. Like, take it because I don't want it. It's weighing me down. Please take all 387 now, brass centines. I wish you can do more than just a single, because if you could give like even if it was increments of like 10 or 25 or 100, that would be great. So that way you can just unload, the centine coins on him, and, not only clear some weight off of you, but you could potentially get honor if you're giving him maybe enough centine. Like, again, I don't know if giving him any amount of centine will ever give you honor. If you sat there doing F3 enter 100 times saying giving him centine, if it ever raises your honor. But if you give him dinar or dinar, however it's pronounced, that will raise your honor. Now you'll notice that sometimes when you come to the guild hall, Rikish will be here, and eventually he will offer to train with you. And if he gives you that opportunity, do it. Because he will tell you a few things, and also I believe it's one of the things that's required if you want to be a paladin, to basically show him that you know how to fight. But going back to that beggar, it'd be cool if you can give him, like X amount of centine at one time, because as I said, you can't go to the money changer and say, hey, you know what, I have 650 centine. Can I give you some and you give me like dinar back? So if I have 650, maybe you give me 63 and take a cut of 63 dinar or dinar, and you take a cut. I don't mind. Just let me unload this damn weight off of me. So it'd be cool if you could either give the beggar more than one coin at a time, or if the money changer actually allowed you to transfer some of that money, or not transfer, but exchange it. So what we're going to do is we're doing that thing where I said when you come out of Shapir, basically hook a left past the Griffin, not a Vulture. I may have already called him a Vulture. I'm sure at some point I've already called it a Vulture. And then now combat. And you can see, even though it's sped up, like that Brigand went down really, really quick. Because at this point, I've pretty much raised my strength pretty high and I've raised my weapon use pretty high by always doing combat instead of like defensive things. And then when I go to Uhura, that's where I do my defensive stuff. So with her, I'll train parry and dodge, but while I'm out here in the desert, it's just straight up attack. So the straight up attack will both raise your strength and your weapon use. And if you do what I was doing with Uhura, if you do parry and dodge, that will increase your agility, your parry dodge, and something else. There's another skill it'll raise, or another attribute it will raise. So we're going to cruise around, and this is where I start throwing rocks, and it'll give you like a little target. And what'll happen is, like I said, if you just sit here and just do F3, throw rocks, didn't even have to go off the screen, a Brigand showed up. So what I end up doing is I pretty much start picking up a bunch of rocks, and I basically throw rocks until a monster shows up, then I kill it. Then I just either move to the left or the right so that I load a new screen where there isn't a dead monster, and then I just rinse and repeat. So right now I'm just throwing rocks to raise a skill, but you'll see I'll eventually move off and I'll start doing the the throw rock trick and basically wait for monsters to show up, because why not raise your skill at something? And I think throwing rocks also increases your strength. So you kind of get the best of both worlds. You're increasing a stat that you need as a fighter. You're increasing a stat that you really don't need as a fighter, which is your throw skill. And it's like the best of both worlds. I'm just increasing skills and increasing my strength at the same time. So it's pretty fun. We're just going to cruise around for a little bit. Kind of get closer back towards Shapir. But fight whatever comes my way, including scorpions. And I will say, once again, make sure to have vigor pills if you're out here at night, because if you encounter a ghoul at night, it does not even have to touch you. If you have like no stamina, it just assumes that the ghoul did it and you die. Which made me, it was in the last commentary, the one before that, I wonder what the point of the poison cure is, because there's no point at which the scorpion stings you where you're poisoned, and there's no point at where if a ghoul hits you, you are poisoned. Either you get stung by the stinger, like it grabs you in its claw and the scorpion stings you with the stinger and you die, or you have no stamina and the ghoul hits you and you die. So there's no point to the poison cure because you never actually get to use it. Like it feels like if you get stung by the stinger, you should be able to survive it, should you win the fight, and then use the poison cure. But like if you don't have a poison cure, you start taking damage from the poison that's in your body until you do the poison cure. And same thing with the ghoul, because it says that the ghoul's poison has drained you, so it feels like it should be the same way. Like, why does the ghoul getting you to 0 stamina instantly kill you? Why doesn't it use your health pool if it's actually poisoning you? So that's a minor complaint that I have. All right, so we're just looking around, not much to do. There's no elementals about, nothing like that. We're going to go ahead and sleep until dawn and get our daily food. And we're also going to get our drink. We're going to thank Shema. And by the way, if you happen to buy roses, I think at some point I spot her roses and give her roses, that is another way of raising your honor. So one of the kata sells roses, and you can give it to Shima, and get some honor that way. So we saw that the Saurus was inside, and now we can see something whirling around. Now, the thing with the air elemental, this one's a little bit tough because it kind of freely moves between these two screens. Unlike the fire elemental, as far as I know, I think the fire elemental just stays in that open screen until you lure him into the hallway. But the air elemental just kind of moves on its own. And the problem is sometimes it rides that line between the two loading screens. So you try to get close to it, and he basically goes into the other screen. So you kind of have to keep chasing him around, or you just wait for him or it to come onto a screen that you're just going to wait on and wait for him to come near you and then try to run into him. Because the thing with the air elemental, unlike the fire elemental that you're trying to avoid, the air elemental, you're actually trying to get inside of it. And I don't know if that's the same for for thieves and magic users. I assume it is because I think this is solved always the same way, where you get inside of it, you basically drop dirt, you get out of it, and then you use the bellows to basically siphon the air elemental inside of the bellows. So I'm pretty sure it's the same no matter what class you're playing. But yeah, it moving between the two screens freely does sometimes make it difficult. And I love the fact that no matter what screen you beat him on, when you go to the next screen over, like the shop is all set up again, and they're like, hey, thanks for doing that with the air elemental. And then you go back the other way, all the guards are out patrolling, and you're like, where were you when there was an air elemental out here? Like, could have used your help, maybe. So it's kind of funny how quickly everyone just resumes normal life after you've done all the hard work. And this is like, again, what I was saying is you can see that I'm doing the dodge and parry. You can see the character moving back, raising the shield, moving back, raising the shield. And that's because with her, that's where I'm training those skills. And then we've taken a little rest after all of that ordeal. Gonna kind of look around some and look at the map. We'll go here. Almost forgot. Got to fill that water skin basically every time you come back. Then we're going to go ahead and take the Saurus, grab some rocks. But you're not allowed to throw rocks in or just outside of Spear. So let's not do that. Let's go over here and see if we can try to sell him the stingers. And he says, oh, I'm really in awe of your bravery, but I really don't need him anymore. And this is why I was saying earlier that if you are going to sell the stingers and the ghoul claws, try to do it. See, I just bought the cure pills, which is pointless. Try to, if you're going to sell those, do it all in one shot so you can capitalize on the amount that you're going to sell. Because I believe, I don't know what the cap is, but if the cap is 10 and you sell him 20 at one time, I don't think he's going to say, hey, I only need 10 of these. You can keep the other 10. But if you kind of do it onesie twosies, you reach whatever that cap is, which is, under, 20 or whatever. So recommend if you can carry the weight around to carry as many stingers and claws as you can. That way you can just sell it all in one shot and capitalize on the amount of money that you can make. And then with the Derv, I think that's such a weird quest that Keep On Laughing has about getting the beard. Because when you go, and I think it's funny that when I picked up the beard, I don't know if you saw, it basically says you're carrying so much you can barely move or lighten your load, basically. But anyway, I think it's funny. A strand of hair put me over the weight. But it's such a weird quest that Keep On Laughing gives you to go get the beard. Because you would expect that if he, this incredible Wizard of Air and stuff like that, if he can't travel just a few screens to go ask for a freaking hair of beard, that there's got to be more to it. So I recall when I first played this that I was like, oh, okay, we're going to have to go find this dervish guy. And the dervish guy's going to be like, yeah, I'll let you have some of my bearded hair, but first you have to ... But that's not what happens. You just literally go to him. He goes, yeah, go ahead and take a strand. And you're like, okay, well, easiest money I've ever made, I guess. So there is that. So here we are with the kata dance, and I think it's funny that she says it was typically used like before war to inspire. You know, they use it for before war now and stuff like that, but it was previously used as a means to arouse their species to uh, engage in sexual activity to increase their likelihood of mating and bearing more children, which is actually kind of cool. If you've read ElfQuest, there is, it's a comic book by Warp Graphics. There is a group of elves known as the Go-Backs that do the same thing. Every time before they go out to war, they basically engage. They engage in each other's company, sharing one another's love with many, many, many people. And I think hopefully you know what that means. So I think it's kind of cool. You know, it's not to say that the kata share their love with other people, but her dance basically does the same thing that they do in ElfQuest. They celebrate before war. All right, and so switch gears here. So what I'm doing now is because I'm so overloaded and I have so many blanking centine coins or whatever that I'm just basically looking for stuff to buy so that I can basically unload these coins. So I'm walking around asking what vendors I can buy, and that is something that I think could have been improved on in this game, is trying to figure out what these vendors are selling. Because you can say, hey, tell me about your shop, or, you know, ask about shop or anything like that. And they say, oh, I sell rugs. Well, okay, what kind of rugs? Or, you know, what kind of jewelry? Like, what kind of leather? You know, it'd be kind of cool if there was a way to ask them in some way, and maybe there is, and I just couldn't find it when I was playing. If there was a way to ask them exactly what it is they sell so that they can relist it. Because sometimes when you walk up to them, they'll say, hey, I sell this, 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 and this. And then if you don't remember what it is, all those things that you sell, and you're just like, oh, okay, hit enter. I couldn't figure out how to make them basically repeat exactly what it is that they sell. So it would have been kind of cool if they would have told you. And so here he says, oh, you know, I thought maybe if a day goes by, maybe he needs more, but that's not the case. And I love that I'm so spiteful that I don't drop the tail and the claws in his shop thinking he might just pick these up. If I drop him in his shop, he's just going to pick them up and he's getting them for free. No, I am going to go outside and drop him, make sure he doesn't even know that I dropped him. That's how spiteful I was. So you can see that when I was looking at my inventory, my weight is still over. And so I'm looking for like a bag or something. So I bought a bag and she said, hey, it can hold your stuff. And I thought, oh, cool. Maybe this will help, like kind of like a bag of holding from D&D, which will hold stuff. But that's not the case. All I did was buy a bag, which decreased the amount of money. But I don't know how much the bag weighs in terms of what I just lost in terms of money versus what I just gained in a bag. So we're going to head out into the desert, and you can tell I have actually made a mistake. I went out into the desert, and I'm like, wait, let me turn back around. Let's head back. So now I know where not the Vulture, I know where the Griffin is, and now I'm basically just head left, riding the Saurus until I get knocked off, which will happen very, very soon, because there are monsters everywhere in this desert. And there we go. And see how quickly I'm, even with it being sped up. If we were to slow that down to normal speed, I've gotten so good sounds egotistical. My character has gotten so good with his strength and his weapon use that there is literally nothing I'm afraid to fight. And I'm just literally just looking for fights, because the only thing that is worrisome to fight, because if I don't have the vigor pills, is the ghoul. Because again, if you have 0 stamina left and you encounter a ghoul at night, you just die. And so you can see I was just standing there not moving or doing anything, and a monster, it's horrible to say it when it's person, but a monster rushed into attack. So when you see me walking in circles like this, I promise you, I'm not having a weird seizure or anything like that. What I'm doing is just waiting for a monster like that scorpion to essentially show up, and basically I don't have to walk very far. I can just pace back and forth or throw rocks, and monsters will eventually show up without me having to venture too far. So see, threw a rock and now a monster showed up. So now I can search his body, and I can just keep moving to the right and get closer back to Shapir, just screen by screen, like throwing rocks to increase my skill, waiting for a monster to show up. And the thing is, it's the desert. There's an endless amount of rocks you can pick up out here. And again, the fighter does not really need a throwing skill, and neither does the wizard. That's more of a rogue skill. But it is a way to increase other attributes while you're throwing rocks. And also, it's just a nice, easy way to, while you're increasing attributes, wait for a monster like another scorpion to show up for you to kill. Unfortunately, since the RX guy no longer purchases the stingers, there's no point in collecting those stingers, but hey, you get attributes increased during combat, so that's always beneficial. So even like the Pterosaurus, not a big deal. And there's my own source, as a matter of fact, and we're just going to ride back into town. Things are going smoothly. Nope, didn't make it, so I had to kill the brigand. So now my source is off again. I do think it's cool that he does come back sometimes, but now we're at the Griffin, not a vulture. If you've heard me actually call it a vulture, feel free to tell me in the comments in this version. Okay, and just to explain, when, when I threw that rock at the Griffin, what I was doing is checking to see if it did anything to my honor, whether it increased it or decreased it, to see if like fighting the Griffin would have been beneficial. And then when you try to talk to the Griffin, it says, don't even try to talk to Merv the Griffin. And that reference probably flies over the head of everyone who is listening to this right now, if you are younger, which you probably are if you're younger than me and younger than the Coles, because there is someone, if you want to Google it, they didn't just name the Griffin Merv to just name it Merv. There is a individual by the name of Merv Griffin, and used to be on TV and really, really popular. So that is, I am sure, what he is a reference to, in case no one else knew that. You young people. All right, so it's nighttime now. We're going to go fight some new danger. Now, the thing with that night, again, this is when the ghouls come out. So the ghouls probably the most dangerous thing if you don't have the vigor pills. If you are low in stamina, definitely take a vigor pill to increase your stamina at night. During the day, vigor pills aren't really needed too much, because only ghouls are really a threat. Now, the Jackalware, which I just killed, they tend to come in packs, which, if you're kind of still a newish hero, that's kind of scary. But again, with the weapon use and the strength that I have now built up, like 4 Jackalware, not a problem. A Pterosaurus, not a problem. A Ghoul, not a problem. Like, all these things are not a problem now. Unfortunately, can't capitalize on the Ghoul's claws, but, whatever. Now, the Ghoul is still dangerous, though, however, if I do run out of stamina. So running out of stamina is still very, very deadly. I will say that one thing that I feel like Quest for Glory 2 was lacking is that scary monster that you are always terrified of fighting. Like the ghoul's close, right? Because when you have no stamina, like my stamina is 0 now, so it's very dangerous for me to be out here at night. So I'm gonna save. Um, because if I encounter a ghoul, it's over. Because I have 0 stamina, he won't even have to touch me. So boom, dead. That's exactly what I mean. So now I'm going to show you this is a trick. So now, because it's night and there's ghouls here, I've mentioned this before. What I do is if a monster is chasing me and it's night and I have no stamina, I let that monster load onto the screen. I wait at the far right and I keep running. And once I get to the Griffin, I know I'm pretty much safe. But no other monster will chase you. So like while this jackalware is giving me a chase, I know I'm not going to run into a ghoul anywhere as long as this jackalware is tailing me, because the game only allows basically for one monster to tail you. So now that I've made it to the Griffin, I know I'm pretty much safe because I just need to make it a few screens over. And if I happen to die with a ghoul before I reach this screen, I could just restore and it's not a big loss because I know I'm just a few screens away. But what I was saying is the ghoul is basically a monster that's scary only if you have no stamina, but that's easily countered once you have enough dinar to basically buy the potions. So one thing I feel like this game was missing is kind of like the cheetar, because every time I encountered a cheetar, I was terrified. All right, I'll see you over in part 5.